Good evening and welcome to today's hearing. This is the 10th of 11 virtual budget hearings the city will be hosting this year to introduce the fiscal year 2022-2023 trial budget. The feedback we received today and throughout the budget hearing process is extremely important to us as we formulate the proposed budget to present to City Council. The proposed budget will be presented to City Council on May 3rd and voted on May 17th. These hearings will be recorded and streamed on our YouTube channel. And for those of you who do not wish to speak today, you can leave a comment at phoenix.gov/budget. Another way to participate is through the Fund Phoenix Interactive Budget Tool. This interactive tool lets you provide direct feedback on the proposed budget. And with that, I would like to acknowledge our guest for the, our host, for the evening, Councilmember Carlos Garcia from Council District 8. Councilmember?
Thank you. Thank you, Ginger, and thank you, staff, for coming together for another budget hearing. I believe there's one left, so we're almost through this process. Really excited to hear from District 8 constituents. Like I've said in the past, our budget shows the values of our city, and I'm excited to hear from folks today to continue and push for the best budget possible and to address needs that we may have missed. Muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos el día de hoy. Veo que hay varias personas que hablan español. Gracias por acompañarnos. Como dice en el pasado, estamos agradecidos del apoyo de todo el staff que está aquí y de la comunidad que ha tomado el tiempo para presentar el día de hoy con la meta de tener el mejor presupuesto posible que va a apoyar a la comunidad. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Councilmember Garcia. Before we begin the video, I would like to introduce our interpreter for the evening, and that's Mr. Oscar Monroy. Mr. Monroy?
Good afternoon. My name is Oscar Monroy, and I will be serving as your interpreter along with my colleague, Carmen Cota, for today's virtual budget audience. I will now introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience. Mi nombre es Oscar Monroy y junto con mi colega Carmen Cota estaremos sirviéndoles hoy como intérpretes en la audiencia virtual del presupuesto operativo. Al momento de hacer un comentario público, de favor les pedimos que hable despacio, con claridad y deténganse después de cada pocas oraciones para interpretarle de la manera más completa posible. Gracias. Ahora les indicaré cómo acceder a la reunión en español. Desde su teléfono llame al 602-666-0783. Introduzca el número de junta 2488-454-5694, seguido por el símbolo de número. Nuevamente, introduzca el símbolo de número cuando se le solicite el número de identificación o ID de asistente. Gracias.
Okay, thank you, Oscar and Carmen. Next, we will show the budget video highlighting what is in the fiscal year 2022-2023 proposed budget. Immediately following the video, we will move to speaker comments.
The City of Phoenix trial budget for fiscal year 2022-2023, proposed by the Phoenix City Manager, is ready for public review and comment. A trial budget is a rough draft of the actual budget, estimating how much money and how it will be used for the next fiscal year. How does Phoenix's annual budget work? The city budget is made up of three parts: the general fund, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. The general fund is made up of general sales tax, property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income tax, sales and vehicle taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund supports many of the services our residents, visitors and businesses have come to expect in Phoenix libraries, parks, senior and youth programs, and police and fire services. Enterprise funds come from departments that only charge the people who use their services directly, like water and sewer, airlines and passengers at Sky Harbor, and trash and recycling customers. Finally, special revenue funds, earmarked for specific purposes from grants and voter-approved sales taxes dedicated for parks and preserves, transportation, and public safety. That's how Phoenix gets its money. Now, how do we spend it? Phoenix has a long history of public budgeting, giving the community a voice in the future of our city by starting the public involvement much earlier than required. Each year, departments look at what it will take to provide services for the upcoming year, and staff forecast what resources will be available to pay for services. The city manager proposes a trial budget that identifies programs and services that build a better, more inclusive city for all, and will keep the budget balanced. Then we ask for your input at community budget hearings, or by using the Fund Phoenix Interactive Budget Tool, or by contacting the city directly to ensure the budget reflects the priorities of our residents and City Council. After receiving your input, the City Council will vote on the budget in May and legally adopt the budget in June each year. The law requires the city's budget to be balanced each year, and this year we are happy to report a projected budget surplus of $76 million. This is thanks to Phoenix's continued strong economy and sound fiscal leadership from the mayor and city council. For fiscal year 2022-23, the proposed general fund trial budget includes $21 million to address important needs raised by the council and community, and $55 million in set-asides that could be used for employee compensation, city council priorities next year or in future years, or if needed, provide for budget flexibility. The $21 million in supplementals for next fiscal year is proposed for city council and community priority areas, including Focus Area 1, Affordable Housing. $1.5 million is proposed for affordable housing to continue necessary support to low-income residents, such as homelessness prevention and funding for Phoenix Starfish Place, which is dedicated to healing and empowering human trafficking survivors. Focus Area 2, Climate and Sustainability. A proposed $1.3 million to create positions dedicated to climate and sustainability initiatives to achieve the goals of the council-approved Climate Action Plan, and to continue funding for the city's award-winning Cool Pavement program to further help mitigate heat in the city. The funds would also create a position within the city focused on studying the benefits of electric vehicle infrastructure, along with a dedicated Climate Action Plan manager to work toward achieving the goals of the council-approved Climate Action Plan. Focus Area 3, Economic Development, Planning, and Innovation. $1.6 million is proposed to keep Phoenix competitive in the global market. Proposed additions include positions for the Community and Economic Development Department to formalize an international trade program to remain competitive with global markets, enhance marketing opportunities to increase jobs, and resources to target vacant storefronts to create new retail centers. Staffing will also be added to help achieve City Council priority projects, such as transit-oriented development and the Housing Phoenix Plan. Focus Area 4, Historic Preservation and Arts. The city's art collection is in need of refurbishment, and historic buildings need to be protected, which is why the city is proposing $200,000 to invest in historic preservation grants, and to provide increased funding for the Office of Arts and Culture, including arts grants to enhance programming to youth and artists in the community. Focus Area 5, Homelessness, Immigrant, Refugee Support, and Fast Track Cities. $3 million and 17 new positions are proposed to assist the city's growing homeless, immigrant, and refugee populations. The proposed money would help achieve the goals of the council-approved Strategies to Address Homelessness Plan and expand the CARES program that connects individuals to needed services, and a new navigator dedicated to helping immigrants and refugees transitioning into the community, and ongoing funding of $250,000 for the Fast Track Cities initiative. Focus Area 6, Parks and Recreation and Library. To enhance community services, $2.7 million is proposed to the Parks and Recreation Department and the Library Department for enhanced after-school programming at Phoenix after-school centers. Money would also launch a new bookmobile to provide library programming in the Southwest Valley. Focus Area 7, Public Safety and Criminal Justice. $6.3 million is proposed to add more fire sworn personnel to meet minimum staffing requirements. The 19th Avenue Corridor Community Safety and Crime Prevention Plan, and case management support for municipal court to help victims of domestic violence, and new attorney positions for Public Defender's Office for the Veterans and Mental Health Specialty Courts. The proposal also includes using the Phoenix Police Department's existing operating budget to increase the number of civilian positions, allowing sworn personnel to return to the field to respond to calls for service. Focus Area 8, Roadway Safety. Pedestrian and roadway safety is crucial for city streets. $600,000 is proposed to increase annual resources for the City Council-approved Roadway Safety Action Plan. The proposed fiscal year 2022-23 trial budget also includes new positions and needed resources for city enterprise and special revenue funds due to growth and increased demand for services, including additions for aviation, development services, solid waste, transit, and water services. This has been just a taste of what you will find in the 2022-23 City of Phoenix proposed trial budget. More information on the proposed budget is available at our website, phoenix.gov/budget. We encourage you to use our Fun Phoenix interactive tool to provide input, an interactive budget tool that lets you provide direct feedback on the proposed fiscal year 2022-23 trial budget additions. We hope that you'll review additional details in the Budget Tabloid, available online at phoenix.gov/budget. Please share your feedback in whatever way works best for you, at one of the virtual community budget hearings, or by email at budget.research@phoenix.gov. You can comment on the city's social media pages at City of Phoenix AZ on Facebook or Twitter, and use hashtag PHXBudget, or call us at 602-262-4800. The city manager will present his proposed budget for 2022-23 to the Phoenix City Council on May 3rd, 2022. The council's budget decision will take place on May 17th, 2022. Thank you for being part of this important process. We look forward to hearing your ideas for this year's trial budget and the future of Phoenix.
We will now read the hearing conduct statement and then start calling the names of the speakers. Grant?
Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on the proposed budget. The city code requires speakers present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose the opportunity to continue to speak. The city council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending claims or litigation. And with that, our first speaker of the night is Katie Gibson McLean, followed by Morgan Saylor. Katie, are you on the line? Katie is not on the line. Our next speaker is Morgan Saylor, followed by Gilbert Arvisu. Morgan, are you on the line?
On the line, yes.
Perfect. We can hear you, and you may proceed.
Thank you so much. I am calling in because I would like to see this funding go to public safety, increase in our police officers. We have insanely long response times right now in a neighborhood with a lot of violent crime. I just learned today that District 8 has the highest violent crime rate in the city, which I did not know, but I'm I'm not surprised given just the number of shootings that happen on my street alone. And so we just really need that. We're losing our community action officer, who's been the biggest advocate we've had for our neighborhood. You know, and I know there's other problems leading to the shortages, but I do think that paying them better will retain more officers, and hopefully we can get more police officers here. I would also like to see it spent on street lights for neighborhoods where there is a lot of crime. It's a really big problem here with it's just completely pitch black. And I mentioned this before when I showed up to the pre-meeting, but I hope that when you guys are talking about how this money is going to be spent, you're looking at the need of the communities, rather than how long a project has been in the process or who's speaking the loudest. There's a lot of communities out there that aren't able to advocate for themselves and haven't been getting the resources they need. And not all of them are in South Phoenix. We're just south of Arcadia, but a very low income neighborhood, according to the last census data. And I want to make sure that these neighborhoods are also getting attention. So thank you.
Our next speaker is Gilbert Arvisu, followed by Linda Saldivar. Gilbert, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask for the city's continued support for the land reuse strategy, the land reuse strategy oversight task force, community and economic development subcommittee approved an action plan to explore urban farming within the project area. We have highly desirable vertical farming operations that are in threat of being courted to other cities due to our lack of warehouse space and other barriers to startup like remediation and short-term lease agreements. If we are able to reduce these barriers on city-owned land south of the I-17, we have an opportunity to develop an agri-food innovation corridor in lockstep with other projects like Arizona Fresh. This would not only address food insecurity outlined in the 2025 Food Action Plan and the Climate Action Plan by converting greenhouse emissions into renewable energy and biomass through anaerobic digestion, but it can also serve as a workforce development training opportunity for urban farmers who will have to use innovation and technology to offset the nearly 1 million acres of farming land that is lost year over year across the USA. Thanks again for your continued support on these efforts.
Our next speaker is Linda Saldivar, followed by Ashley Harder. Linda, are you on the line?
I sure am. Thank you very much. I would like to speak on behalf of two of the items that are being promoted under these focus areas. And one is homelessness, and I see that it's in two of the focus areas, and the other one that has to do with more support for the Phoenix Police Department. I truly support, and the group that I represent, as well as I am a co-pastor of a church in South Phoenix off of Dobbins and 2nd Avenue. And we support needing more support for the police department because we too have slow response times by the police department, and it does not help in trying to address the problems in our community. The homelessness problem, as everybody knows, I am sure, has increased tremendously over the last several months, not to mention that the last year and a half. I'm not saying that it's the homeless people that are causing this, but I know that some of them, our property, our church property, has been vandalized, has been burglarized, broken into at least 16 times. And we are trying our best to, as a church, we're trying our best to reach out to the homeless people. We're trying to learn the systems and resources that are in place. But there is, in my opinion, a breakdown. And I hope that you really drill down a little bit more into how you are executing on these different programs, because as a member of the South Mountain Block Watch group, there's a lot of frustration among our group with the issue of the homelessness. We know the police department is trying to do the best they can, but certainly much more has to be done. And I don't want to hear a lot of the frustrations and the venting that goes on. So, some of us are very concerned that we want to be proactive, but in order to be proactive, we need more support. Councilman, you have been represented at our meetings, and the neighborhood services has been represented at our meetings. And so
Our next speaker is Ashley Harder, followed by Alex Alioni. Ashley, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes, we can, and you may proceed.
Fabulous, thank you. Yes, my name is Ashley Harder. I am a District 4 resident, but I own property in District 8, and I've also been involved in some community development initiatives in both the Central Park neighborhood and the Grant Park neighborhood. I am also commenting today as the Executive Director for Preserve Phoenix, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the budget. I wanted to call in and just talk about the historic preservation allocation in the budget for the Warehouse and Threatened Buildings grant program. I am wanting to say thank you for including it in the budget, and can we see an increase to the allocation to $500,000? You know, there are a lot of threatened and you know, properties that are very deserving of rehabilitation in District 8. They do contribute to, you know, public safety and some of the things that we've already heard about on that are other concerns, you know, of the district that we've heard on from other callers. And so, you know, I'm just hoping that we can see that allocation increase so we can just address more properties that just aren't utilized and serving their neighborhoods well, and just hoping that, you know, that our city can have better preservation tools to incentivize against, you know, demolition of historic properties. We're limited in our inventory of sort of what's remaining historic within Phoenix, and I'd like to have better tools to protect those remaining properties. So thank you for letting me speak, and have a good evening.
Our next speaker is Alex Alioni, followed by Teresa Sosa. Alex, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
We can hear you, and you may proceed.
Thank you. Speaking on behalf of the ownership group of a 300-unit apartment building, at the corner of Washington and 44th, over the last couple of years, we've experienced pervasive crime issues and safety issues related to homeless. Every day, we have people break into our property, sometimes multiple times a day. We've spent mid six figures trying to solve this. Our surrounding businesses have lost over $1 million in lost business, Spirit Airlines, other contracts. We're advocating more money to the police. It's been hard. Response times are slow, but you know they're working with us, but it's just not enough. Also, the eastbound service of the Metro line terminates catty corner to our property. We'd strongly request that be moved to somewhere else, and perhaps the trains are stored there. But if the Metro Authority needs some money to help with facilitating that, perhaps we would advocate for that. But our issues are really crime issues stemming from homeless, not a homeless problem in itself, but the crime that we've seen, burglaries, a lot of drug use, and just safety concerns for any of our residents or workforce housing, and they work at the airport, they leave early in the morning, and they're afraid to leave. So anything that can help them and us would be greatly appreciated. And thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Teresa Sosa, followed by J.C. Johnson. Teresa, are you on the line? Teresa is not on the line. Our next speaker is J.C. Johnson, followed by Laura Langmaid. J.C., are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, council members and Councilman Garcia. I'd like for the budget to focus on a traffic light for 31st Avenue and Southern, where we have experienced numerous accidents. It's a very dangerous intersection, left turns each way. Motorists are traveling in upwards of 50 to 60 miles per hour, which resulted, if you've seen the news the other night, 2 nights ago, in a fatality of a mom and a severely injured toddler, 4-year-old. We need additional traffic enforcement. Police response is slow, and maybe an idea would be a mobile police RV with motorcycle officers to respond quickly, maybe located at Cesar Chavez Park or some other area. That's one of our highest issues, other than the crime in the area and the homelessness problem. I understand street maintenance is scheduled maybe a year or so off, but our streets are looking like desert flats, and we need some help with that. And last but not least, Manzanita Park, the desert dry well, could use some aesthetic improvements, if at all possible, even if it's just boulders and some desert plants that would make it look a little better than our just a dry desert. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Our next speaker is Laurel Langmaid, followed by Chelsea Friday. Laurel, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Oh, we can hear you,
And
and
I
you may
would
proceed.
I would appreciate if Councilman Garcia would put down his phone and listen. Show us the respect, please. For all those that are interested in trying to solve the homeless situation, please support what's going through the state Senate. Senate Bill 1581. Against that's Senate Bill 1581, which is going to set up sanctioned homeless encampment areas for the homeless. It will get this criminal element that that more and more people have referred to today off the streets and into an encampment where they are not in our neighborhoods and not close to our personal property. I would hope that Councilman Garcia would support more funding for the police, but sometimes I think it falls on deaf ears. I was at a recent community meeting where it was asked what he would do about protecting personal property rights. And he brought up, yes, we're going to protect the personal property rights, but it was more directed toward the homeless property rights and not the property rights of business owners and people that live and work in this district. I grew up and went to school at Balt School, and I'm appalled at what the city of Phoenix has allowed to happen in this district. I'm also appalled that when I looked at the District 8 meeting minutes, that somebody was asking for a place to be able to put syringes and needles in parks so that they would have a safe place for those. I mean, the city is these parks are not a safe place for people to go down. Another place that Councilman Garcia was silent on is at this committee meeting, or this community meeting, was how to get rid of the drug dealers. I mean, he didn't even address it, but fentanyl is an endemic problem in our city streets. So please support more for the homeless, getting them off the streets, and the city of police to enforce what is being happening on the streets. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chelsea Friday, followed by Lilia Rubio. Chelsea, are you on the line?
I am, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Friday, leader of the Rudyville Neighborhood Association. Want to say thank you for having this discussion and hearing our input tonight. Really appreciate it. One thing, I really like all of the budget options and the funding. Everything looked very spread out. One thing, however, that I'm thinking that we would really love for our community is a neighborhood and community budget. We have a lot of crossways that are unsafe, no lighting. We have a lack of lighting in our community. We would also like to see maybe funding for neighborhood associations, kind of more than what's already available to us, to help create change in our communities. And I'd also like to see an education budget for a lot of our elementary schools in the area that are just not doing very well, and they have a huge lack of funding that they need help with. So neighborhood and education budgets, I would love to see for District 8. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lilia Rubio, followed by Carrie McNeish. Lilia, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, we can hear you and
Hi.
you may proceed.
Yes, and thank you for listening to me. I am a school teacher, and I'm also an investor in the community. I had a lot of faith in the community. We bought some property, some vacant land, and built a couple of homes right across from Perry Park. But it's been going really bad because of the homeless issue. I'm a very compassionate person. You know, I'm a teacher. I love people. I love children. But it's very concerning that it's been taking this long to resolve. I think it's been going on for the last 2 years. It's just been getting a lot worse. And I don't see that much of doing anything other than having a talk or, speak here, speak there. But I'm concerned when I take my students to try to have a practice for soccer. I see the children should not be exposed to seeing homeless people doing drugs, dealing drugs, or having sex. My husband took his class to have a soccer practice, and we just had to leave because it wasn't safe. Parks should be for children, nothing else. So we need more support for the police. We need more, more safety around these kids. There's a budget for Perry Park, and I love to hear that, but I'm also really concerned that that is just going to fit and attract more homeless people. We need to take our community, we need to take our parks back. And I'm thinking, I saw a project in LA, in Echo Park, where the community took the park back. They gated the park for a year. It was taken back by the community, but it needed the support from the city. They closed down the park for a year, they cleaned up, and now it's beautiful. And it used to be more like 1,000 people living on that park. So yeah, the budget is great, but I would like to see more for safety, more police, and just please listen to the community because we are that who live in the community, who spend time in the community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carrie McNeish, followed by Dan Clark. Carrie, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and you may proceed.
Thank you, honorable council members and mayor. My name is Carrie McNeish, and I'm speaking on behalf of Pickleball at Desert Foothills Park, a grassroots community of currently over 900 people that would like to see at least 8 dedicated pickleball courts and a parking lot added to our community park. During the District 6 budget meeting, Councilman DeCiccio indicated he would support the effort of resurfacing and dual purposing the existing 2 tennis courts, but this is only an interim solution as these courts need to be updated anyway in order to be used by either tennis or pickleballers. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. It's safe, inclusive, it's great for physical, mental health, which we know is important over the last couple of years. It has grown 40% in the last 2 years, and in Arizona specifically, pickleball league play has grown over 175%, surpassing tennis. In fact, our Foothills Grade School Sierra has just received a state grant to introduce pickleball to all the students. The Foothills is still growing. So parks need to grow with the community. An additional 1,000 homes are being added just in this area by the park. Desert Foothills Park has never been finished, and in the past 20 years, it has a large gravel area that is currently used for illegal dumping and sometimes criminal activity. It is bordered by a major road and sports fields and very few homes, which makes it ideal for these courts. And as with other parks, increased activity due to pickleball can not only help better the area, but reduce crime, which is one of the city's initiatives. This would also support the green initiatives as we could walk or bike and play pickleball rather than driving to Pecos. Pecos Park, bordering Tempe and Chandler, is the only city park in Ahwatukee with pickleball courts. It's an awesome park. However, we estimate that over half the people playing do not reside in Ahwatukee. Players here are facing full courts and long waits. We know that with the sport growing popularity, the problem that the courts are going to continue. Tempe, Gilbert, and Chandler are all making new pickleball courts a priority, and we hope Phoenix will too. While we support many of the other budgeted items, we are asking the city to allocate some funds for this project and for your support. We understand that various monies are available and can be used to complete full resurfacing and new courts, parking lot. We have sent our full presentation to the council office, and we thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Dan Clark, followed by Ishmael Morales. Dan, are you on the line? Dan, are you on the line? Oh, Dan, if you are speaking, we cannot hear you. Our next speaker is Ishmael Morales, followed by Jim McPherson. Ishmael, are you on the line? Ishmael is not on the line. Our next speaker is Jim McPherson, followed by Cindy Agon. Jim, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Hello, Councilman Garcia and Ginger. While I live in District 4, I spend most of my workday in both District 7 and 8. Like you, I wear several hats, and so tonight I'll wear my hat as board president of the Arizona Preservation Foundation, our state's historic preservation advocacy group. At last year's statewide preservation conference in Tempe, the city of Phoenix received the Governor's Heritage Preservation Honor Award for its informative Phoenix ethnic heritage story maps. Members of our organization assisted city employees and the authors in researching the Asian American, African American, and Hispanic buildings and sites for the original surveys and now in the story maps. Here at my kitchen table, I also have a copy of the city's Mid-Century Marvels coffee table book and a brochure outlining the last 48 buildings from the 19th century still standing in our city. Over the years, we've advocated for the protection of Phoenix historic and cultural landmarks, large and small, at public hearings and bond meetings and neighborhood conversations and meetings with property owners and advocates. Past bond and grant funding for the Historic Preservation Office is very much appreciated, but much more is needed so we don't lose more landmarks on the story maps, in Mid-Century Marvels, in the last 48 brochure, and day-to-day homes and businesses that maintain the unique character of your district and our city. Our organization supports the Warehouse and Threatened Building Fund in the amount of $500,000. Thank you for your consideration and for your public service.
Our final speaker of the night is Cindy Gahn. Cindy, are you on the line?
I am.
Oh, we can hear you and you may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Garcia and city staff members for this opportunity to provide input. Just for the record, my name is Cindy Gahn. I'm the Senior Director of Phoenix Community Alliance, speaking on behalf of its board and members. Reviewing the budget, just to go over the things that PCA does support, $1.5 million for allocation for affordable housing, including resources for permanent supportive housing services and homelessness prevention. $1.3 million and 3 positions for the climate and sustainability, especially as related to climate action plan manager, EV manager, and the Cool Pavement program. $1.6 million and 10 positions for economic development for community and economic development at the creation of a vacant commercial and fun entertainment team. It's those vacant commercial storefronts that are a problem throughout the city. Also much needed staff additions for planning and development, OCA, and adaptive reuse programs. In addition, like Ashley and Jim mentioned before me, looking for funding for historic preservation in the amount of $500,000 and additional funds for the arts above the $100,000, possibly from the second tranche of ARPA funds. For looking obviously for threatened buildings protection and exterior rehab for historic preservation. 3 million and 17 positions for homelessness, immigrant refugee support, and fast track cities. 2.7 million and 13 positions for parks, recreation, and libraries, in particular for our key urban parks like Hans Park. 0.6 million for roadway safety and support for Vision Zero, increasing resources and looking forward to an infusion of federal funding for that program as well. An addition of 31 positions for aviation, 10 much needed positions for planning and development, 0.9 million and 6 positions for public transit, 12 positions for street transportation as well. We thank you for your time and attention and also for your service to our city.
Our final speaker of the night will be Dan Clark. Dan, are you on the line? Dan, are you on the line? If you're speaking, we cannot hear you. It appears Dan is not on the line.
All right, thank you, Grant. So that is all of our speakers for this evening. We want to thank everyone for participating and providing feedback on the fiscal year 2022-2023 proposed budget. I would like to go to Councilmember Carlos Garcia for closing comments.
Thank you, Ginger, and thank you all who called in tonight. We have a lot of work to do to take this input in. I want to also thank everyone who joined us at our in-person meetings. We hear you, and we'll hopefully get to work on making sure the budget addresses the needs that were brought up today and throughout the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Garcia. So thank you to all of our callers this evening, to our Budget and Research Department team, to all of the city staff who attended this evening, and to our interpreters. We want to give, again, a special thanks to our host this evening, Councilmember Garcia from Council District 8, representing the Phoenix City Council. And this concludes our hearing. Thank you.
After the pots are made, they're not done until they're glazed.